see if I'm on. I should have some kind of music, right? Some kind of music. I don't know. I don't feel like having that at the beginning of this because I'm not a show. This is not a show. This is absolutely public notice after public notice after public notice of what is going on in El Paso, on Fort Bliss, and Juarez, Mexico, and in our country, that has the betrayal, that the reason why our son is his life was taken, and 500,000 children were trafficked, and many, many, many other crimes and travesties committed because those that are there in El Paso are impersonators or illegally in their position, working for foreign and domestic enemies. And there's no prosecutors, right? There's no prosecutors um, because just go look at those offices. There's no prosecutors. Go and do a FOIA on the paperwork. They have no leader there to get accountability. And so people go, well, we want accountability. We want accountability. Go look at the situation and you'll see that there's a real problem, and this is deliberate. This is intentional to continue with their criminal trafficking of, hell. It's the levels of their trafficking reaches hell. So let's see if I'm on, if you can see, and we can get started. Sometimes it takes a little, and especially because our site has been so busy. We are just hitting it out of the park, because we don't monetize and we don't really advertise, except for those that share. And I just want to say thank you so much, because one of the ways the enemy stops you from getting justice is they try to break you, right? They try to break you mentally. They try to break you physically. They try to break you financially, so that that you can't keep doing this for over 5 years. Over 5 years we've been doing this day in and day out, and so you have to pace yourself. And one of the ways of doing that is getting the help from the public, right? The people, to share the information, because the infiltrators, the impersonators, um, the yeah, the deceivers, they are like in the media, they are in the services, they are also in the law enforcement, they are also in the Justice Department, they are also in the military, and they're also in the business world. And so, it's really the people. Goes down to the individual that shares to get this information out. So let's see if I can get started. And I hope that makes sense. There I am. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Laura, um, for your prayers and all your sharing. And yeah, hell, El Paso, right? The death camp on Fort Bliss, right? They were calling it the death camp. That wasn't me. That was those the military that was calling, Fort Bliss the death camp. Okay, and I think those in El Paso were calling it the death camp because so plenty of witnesses to what was going on on Fort Bliss, even though they ordered people not to look and not to inquire about what was happening at the emergency intake center. Um, but people did, people did, and there's plenty of witnesses to it. So today's a huge day because this is coming after, thinking and about that Conal Whetten has been restricted now from information, that he is not being given any kind of updates and information on cases. Now, this is huge because Conal Whetten is a very big player there in El Paso. He was the inside man um, for Woody Hunt. Okay, and who are they? Who are they? And another big player is DES Thomas Kane. Okay, the person that was in charge of security of Fort Bliss, the director of emergency services, Thomas Kane. And so, who is Conal Whetten? Who's Woody Hunt? Who is Thomas Kane? And who's like Lola or Tavita Nusa, let's just say former CID agent Tavita Nusa, who had his badge taken from him, and he was then separated from the military. Who are these people, right? Well, they constitute a small part of this important part, very important part of this Mormon faction. Okay, this Mormon faction, and it's starting to get out now, especially with the Charlie Kirk execution, and half his team was Mormon. The word is getting out that there's something wrong here. There's something wrong, and I want to really focus on Conal Whetten, because he's the assistant special agent in charge there, um, uh, in El Paso at the FBI office, in that field office in El Paso, Texas. And we really believe that he's the reason why Richard is dead now, because of his failures and because of his actions that he took to help, to aid and abet the criminals. A 500,000 children would not be able to be trafficked through Fort Bliss if it wasn't for Conal Whetten um, allowing it to happen. Jeffrey Epstein would not be able to do what he did at Zorro Ranch. And, the really bad thing about what he did is he compromised so many officials. He compromised so many officials. He trapped them. Of course, they're weak. They're weak. They're not like Richard. They're not heroes like Richard, that was uncompromising, right? They tried to do their best to compromise, but he wears the full armor of God, right? The full armor of God. He just could not be compromised, and they hate him for that. They absolutely, and you see the reaction. You see the reaction to him with all of this and what they've done, and those that rather just aid and abet the cover up, because of the hero nature, the uncompromising hero nature of Richard, the loyalty for the country, the love for the country of Richard, the love for the children, the love for what was right, so that, he didn't feel it was right that the weapons would be stolen from Fort Bliss and trafficked, that the ammunition would be stolen from Fort Bliss, from the American people, and be trafficked. He didn't feel it was right for the fuel on Fort Bliss to be siphoned and taken off of Fort Bliss and stolen, and that that the American people were being extorted, right? They were being extorted, and that all of this, um, what they were stealing was aiding and abetting foreign and domestic enemies of the United States. And of course, Jeffrey Epstein was aiding and abetting the enemies of the United States. He was collecting all kinds of compromising videos, pictures, situation, flight logs, whatever. Um, and, so here he was I think he was like a math teacher or whatever. He didn't even have a degree. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, he has Zorro Ranch. He has the island. He has the top homes in New York and Florida. So it very, where did all of this unexplained wealth come from, right? Um, so none of that could happen on Zorro Ranch and up through White Sands without Conal Whetten giving the thumbs up to it. Okay, give it. It's not even looking the other way. He's giving the thumbs up. Okay, because you're talking about many, many years, and that is with Woody Hunt. Of course, with Woody Hunt. And of course, with DES Thomas Kane, because he was a director of emergency services. He was a security on Fort Bliss. He was directing it. And so none of this could happen. And even with Tavita Nusa, a CID agent, um, uh, none of this could happen with Jeffrey Epstein and the planes and, a perfect pipeline up to Zorro Ranch. Um, None of it could happen without these other people giving a thumbs up and even aiding and abetting for any kind of questionable person like Richard. Richard was the top kind of questionable person because he wasn't compromised. You see, so many of them can be bullied or they can be caught with maybe an underage girl, because they were bringing in the 14-year-old girls to the barracks for look, Thomas Kane allowed a 14-year-old girl to live in the barracks on Fort Bliss for 4 months. If that's not compromising our soldiers, I don't know what is. They purposely compromised them so that they could shut them up if they asked any question, because they could just say, "We have you in a compromising situation with a 14-year-old girl. She might look 18 or whatever, but she was 14." And I don't think that's true. I think no 14-year-old looks like an 18-year-old, but who knows, right? But 4 months living on base, um absolutely. Yes, death camp. Yep, in Mexico, ranches out of the way, cities, yeah, women and children are sex slaves. Absolutely. And you have them making a business out of it, okay? Because a lot of money is happening, and so they make these LLCs, and that is connected to the county attorney. The county attorney has to, uh, do this paperwork, part of these LLCs, and of course the county clerk, and of course, if anyone, part of their businesses is even Plenitude Crematorium, is even uh, pregnancy crisis center or crisis pregnancy centers, is even these emergency C-sections and organ harvesting, right? And none of that, and all of these 500,000 children being trafficked through Fort Bliss. And of course, the fuel. Remember, Cesar Peniche caught billions of barrels of fuel that he siphoned, and was reselling, stealing and reselling. And we know that fuel was being stolen off of Fort Bliss. Okay, so this is a national security issue, and it is extortion to the highest degree, and it is a business plan because they have to money launder all this money they're making, and it creates a lot of unexplained wealth. And another huge, none of that could happen without Conal Whetten, without Woody Hunt, without Thomas Kane, without Tavita Nusa, giving a thumbs up, right? And what do they have in common? Well, they're Mormon. They're Mormon. They're part. They're part of this Mormon faction. And this Mormon faction, um, with those coming down from Canada, right, over because they want to be polygamous, coming down to search for more girlfriends, to possibly have more wives. And of course, as time went on, the women were like, wait a minute, I think we have equal rights here. I'm searching for more boyfriends, maybe possibly more husbands, right? And then it causes this sex cult. It causes a sex cult because nobody has loyalty at all to their family. And this is all the environment, right, of Conal Whetten, of Woody Hunt, of uh, of Tavita Nusa, of Thomas Kane, because we know that Thomas Kane was married and had multiple um, girlfriends, girlfriends, if you want to say. Um, and we know that so did Tavita Nusa. Okay. And so to say that Conal Whetten, as the assistant special agent in charge in the FBI field office, is a good guy, he's the rottenness. He's the one that brings on hell. He brings on this culture of hell, of these crimes of hell, where 500,000 children are being trafficked. And, where are they? Where are they? It has been reported over and over and over again that they're mostly dead, that they are absolutely mostly dead. And we know that Richard lost his life, and Richard would never, look, Richard felt the need to go to Houston FBI. Why? Because Conal Whetten was in the very compromised El Paso FBI office. Think about that. The 911 calls, the reports to CID, the reports to IG, the reports to Washington, D.C., the reports to Houston FBI, the reports to Child Protective Services. Conal Whetten had all of he absolutely knows who Richard is. He absolutely knows the 2019 history of Richard's reports being a whistleblower. He absolutely knows about Ray Velarde and Elmayo's part in this. He absolutely, which is the big billionaire cartel involved in all of this. He absolutely knows that Richard was retaliated against continuously and severely for months and months. And then he knows that his life was taken. And then they also know, because we have a recording, of DES, Thomas Kane. Um, he is caught. Uh, saying that the commanding officer on Fort Bliss directed him, gave him orders, directed him. I guess that would be the best way since he was an active duty military. but gave him orders, directed him to do a full renovation of the arms room in Richard's building on Fort Bliss without going through the normal channels, without going through the bidding, disobeying the regulations, and at whatever expense, an open checkbook. Okay. So you know the the evidence is mountainous in all of this, and the big culprits in this aiding and abetting foreign and domestic enemies. A big culprit is this Mormon faction. Absolutely. And it was James Hart that alerted me to it when I talked to him on the phone. Because he also, and he has multiple wives. Leilani Hart is not James Hart's only wife. That has been confirmed. So he had no loyalty to his family, right? There's no loyalty to his family. And Leilani Hart had no loyalty to the family. That's why they ended up divorced. Because she had multiple partners, and of course she confessed to facilitating the worst type of crimes against children, which included her children, and failure to report that for decades, and one of her children, her oldest son, Eddie, what happened to him? Because I don't buy the story. I don't buy the story of how he lost his life. I don't buy it. I would need more investigation because of the evidence that we have. So yeah, it's none of this would happen without this Mormon faction there in control and out of control. They are absolutely out of control, developing some kind of sex cult there. And so many people are then, psyoped into taking a plane up to Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro ranch. And where did all these children go that were trafficked through Fort Bliss? Did they end up at Zorro Ranch? Or some of them? And why was the response to Richard so brutal? So brutal. While he was alive and even after. And impersonating him and taking his credit cards and his identity and using them after they had taken his life. This same group that are also part of the Mormon faction. Danae Katzen. And they the Ambreses that impersonate with their oh my gosh, it's so bad how they impersonate. It's deception. The one word definition for Satanism is selfishness. And I would say the second word is deception. And that means deception. Impersonation falls underneath that. And we have impersonation everywhere. Like with James Bonneau Montoya, he is like the biggest deceptive impersonator. The same thing with Woody Hunt with his foundation. He is an impersonator. He impersonates being good when he is absolutely the opposite, bringing in hell, bringing in hell for personal gain. The same thing with Conal Whetten. And people that know him come on and, oh, he's so sweet. He was, maybe he was sitting there petting his dog or something and they thought he was so sweet. Well, let me tell you what, he's impersonating because he brought in hell to that whole border area. And now people know because they're not giving him intelligence briefings. This is the word. And I would say Nieto also, because Nieto's wife worked in intelligence on Fort Bliss. And he was in the FBI field office. And I would say even this is how bad this office was because it had George Torres. And his wife is Texas Tech University Health Science Center. That's scary. Intelligence, Texas Tech University Health Science Center for this crew that allowed the likes of Martha Aguiar, the she devil that was or organ harvesting. This is confirmed by the DNI. This is not me making it up. This is me reporting what the DNI Tulsi Gabbard just reported. And luring. Who did the luring? Who did the referring, the luring of these crisis pregnancies where they feel like they need a cheap C-section and adoption? And they end up losing their life because they're all, not only are they after the baby, but they're after the organs. You know, the kidneys, and the um, corneas. Um, and then you done and have the shell of the person, you have to have a place to dump them. But before you do that, you let the funeral homes involved make money off of extorting and lying with deception and selfishness of unidentified migrant humanitarian aid, calling the victims unidentified migrants, just like what Mario Ortiz Zaroldi did and the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office did, call the victim a prostitute in his case and call him a solicitor instead of a trafficker. They're all about deception and turning things upside down, the opposite of what they really are. So these victims are called unidentified migrants or prostitutes so that they could cash in on them or cover up for major crimes. And they did that to Richard, right? They were trying to, the whole time they were trying to discredit him. They were trying to destroy his character. And why? So that people wouldn't look. So their playbook is called deception and impersonation. Because Conal Whetten, I don't know if you would call him an impersonator. He is the assistant special agent in charge. He really is. That makes him worse, worse than maybe Epstein. Because Epstein, everyone knew he was a criminal. And Woody Hunt, he's just throwing, uh, putting the carrots in front of these people to compromise them, right? To get the inside man, or maybe it's a setup with the Mormon church. Maybe the Mormon faction is bigger than what we know. Because Conal Whetten's absolutely the inside intelligence. Epic is a part of Epic, El Paso intelligence community for the likes of Woody Hunt. And DES Thomas Kane is right there in Fort Bliss security, in charge of Fort Bliss security. So when people say, "Oh, they couldn't fly over White Sands," that's such a baloney. They said that to us when we knew that there was a cover up going on. Oh, they could never do that. There, no way, no, they have compromised key people and key places. They know the system. They could absolutely fly. And we know pilots, don't we? We know Deborah Sarah West, who was teaching Dallas Hart. We know that Delirious now is a pilot. We know Dallas Hart was a pilot or is a pilot. And we know others. And we know that the takeoff area of choice for the whole area is Santa Teresa because there's no scrutiny at Santa Teresa Jetport. And it's right there on the border. Hip hop over to Mexico. Hip hop right there under the radar. You just fly, you just put in that Oto, my grandfather's name was Oto. You put in that Oto channel, right? Frequency, and it takes you right into the landing strip of Zorro Ranch. Right there. Right there. Anybody flying in that area channels into Oto and it brings them right into the landing strip of Zorro Ranch. None of that could happen. You think that the FBI don't know who's flying where? What is directed? I mean, that they have this um dish right there directing planes right there, and there's a landing strip and it belongs to the notorious Jeffrey Epstein. You don't think they know that? Of course they know that. And they gave a thumbs up to it, otherwise it wouldn't have gone on and on and on for years and years and years. And then you can say, "Oh, well, he was arrested in 2019." Abs yes, but that didn't just because he was arrested doesn't mean that the demand was arrested. They went hog wild in 2021. When Biden came in, they absolutely put up that intake center and they found a way and made a way, and they had 500,000 children. 500,000 children. And these are all the way up to the age 17. And I hope there wasn't any crisis pregnancy in that intake center. Yeah. So absolutely, Leilani Hart had confessed and it was accepted in right there in Connell's hands. He knew that she had confessed to the worst type of crimes against children, facilitating the worst types of crimes against children, failing to report the worst type of crimes against children for decades, and that Dallas was engaged in um, those kinds of activities with his his own male family members, which is against the law. It's against the law, especially when you're in uniform. I mean, it's against the law. It's against the law of nature. It's against the law of God. It's against the law of a community, of a future, of a bright future. This kind of stuff absolutely is so destructive. And what do? They get the media to promote it like, oh, it's okay. They get a religious organization to say, oh, yeah, polygamy is okay. Go and find yourself some girlfriends. Go and find yourself some boyfriends. Oh, if they're young, oh, they get younger. Oh, they get younger. Oh, okay, that's okay too. They're going to promote it. Well, if it's consensual, it's okay. And then you go and you're doing an investigation. Remember I think it's a black family, not the color black. Their last name is Black, the Black family that were part of the Mormon faction, and they're looking for bodies, and they're asking his many wives, because this is right over the border from New Mexico, what's going on here? Who are you? And they don't even know their origin. They don't even know where they came from. Is that consensual? I don't think so. I don't think so. And they promote it with these movies like it's so cool. They have no respect for for sexual activity at all. They have no respect for it. And I can't stress it enough, because the leadership, where it's clearly illegal, what Dallas Hart did with his brother and father is clearly illegal, especially when you're in uniform, and they let it happen. They let it happen even though they had a confession from a direct witness. They let it happen. What does that tell you about Sean Bernabe? What does that tell you about our generals? What does that tell you about Conal Whetten? What does that tell you about DES Thomas Kane? What does that tell you about Tavita Nusa? They're up to no good. And people that call them so sweet and nice, no, get behind me, Satan. They're not nice. They're not sweet. They're deceivers. They're deceivers and they're impersonators. And anyone can whisper sweet things in your ear and you think, oh, okay, whatever. They're so sweet. No, they're not sweet. They bring on hell. And they need to be held accountable for what they have done, what they have failed to do. They're not sweet. They're monsters. President Trump has it right. And that's why they attacked President Trump, because President Trump saw through their deception. Richard saw through their deception. Richard saw that they were monsters and reported it. President Trump saw that they were monsters and reported it. And the backlash was absolutely observed for all to see. For all to see. Because the attack, the whole Walmart mass shooting, that was orchestrated to attack President Trump. And if they had to take out any whistleblowers, anybody reporting it, like Richard, like Glendon Oakley Jr., like so many others, if they had to take them out, they did any way they could. Intimidation, threats, even making their life so miserable, or even taking their life. So this is there's a loyalty in these religious organizations, and I get that. But when it's criminal, they need to pay for their crimes. You can go along with it if that's what you're, but our law says it's criminal still. Thank you. And they need to pay for their crimes. They need to be held accountable for what they did. And we don't have that, do we? Because of the impersonation or the um, just lack of prosecutors, rightful prosecutors in there. And this whole Jeffrey Epstein connection to Woody Hunt, because they absolutely with Richardson, right, with the King family, with Woody Hunt, uh, is absolutely with Soros. So instead of um, you know, pointing to a whole people, you need to say this is this Mormon faction, this is this Soros and Epstein, because of the funding, because of how they're bringing in hell. You judge them by their fruit, right? If their fruit is rotten, and this is, I mean, rotting bodies, rat infested rotting bodies, their fruit is very, very rotten. And that's how you judge them. And the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office is rotten. The criminal law magistrate court in El Paso is rotten. Impersonators. The chief medical examiner is rotten. That fruit is rotten. He's illegal. The county judge is rotten. The county clerk is rotten. And then, of course, you have the Arellano family. And I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm saying it like it's Italian. Arellano family. I guess that's how you would say it in Spanish. Arellano family. With Plenitude Crematorium. But these people have, many businesses. They have the Cano Inc., right? Cano, what is that? Fuel or Cano Steel Inc., which is part of Cano Grupa, and they also have a security business in Juarez. They're part of this security business in Juarez. Um, you know, I think they need to report that to the United States of America and the authorities. I think they do. And they have the crisis pregnancy. And they have the, oh, what is that, blacktopping, whatever, paving. They have a bar that requires a liquor license. But they're running Plenitude Crematorium, which the land and the house, the structure is owned by the mama, Rosemary. But the business is owned by the brothers. And they were living right beside Beto O'Rourke. You telling me Beto O'Rourke doesn't know when he He's a Congress doesn't know who's living right beside him and what they're up to. Right beside, like, let's look out the window and say, "Hi, how are you doing, neighbor?" The Mexican ranch is out of the way of the cities. Yeah, women and children. Yeah. And I reported on that really from the very beginning. I think in the first, I think maybe in 2021, I started saying, wait a minute, what are all these like orphanages and all, something doesn't make sense here. Something doesn't make sense with all these shelters and that. They were up to no good. Absolutely. And you're telling me that Conal Whetten is good to allow 500,000 children to be trafficked and unidentified migrants to lose their lives? I don't think he's good. No, no, I don't think so. I think he's really rat infested rotten. And don't tell me that you have someone living right beside Beto O'Rourke and Conal Whetten doesn't know it, that they're running a crematorium, a narco crematorium. It's his business. He's the intelligent. It's his business to know who's living beside Beto O'Rourke, who these businesses are that are transnational, who's being extorted. Because they were claiming extortion. I mean, you have Salvador Purchase saying, "I'm claiming extortion," and then then maybe they get this visa because they don't want to live in Mexico. They want to bring their bad things to El Paso. And he did. Oh, CPS. Um, and I know that the Borders Our Homan is coming to El Paso. He's coming to UTEP. That's coming up. So thank you so much, Laura, for keeping us up to date with everything. A lot of information out there. Never give up. Even if I don't answer, never give up. Keep sending it because there's so much to go through and so many calls and so many other responses. And of course, we have to file. We have to file, and that's very time consuming. And of course, our research, our investigation doesn't end, right? It keeps going. And so we really are grateful for anybody giving us information. And I just want to say thank you for the gifts that we've gotten lately. Um, it's that's what keeps us going because the public. I can't tell you how much love we're getting right now, and it's been very difficult because it is like a uh, David and Goliath. But when God's on your side, who can be against you, right? And we have just moved mountains. It's been just incredible, and I think that the people are have seen that. They're totally convinced that what we've done is just a miracle. It's just incredible that we've exposed the Mayella family, which is Patrick Crucius's family, and their connections into the federal courthouse, into the DA's office, into the FBI's office, into Walmart cybersecurity. I mean, what are the chances of that? It looks like an orchestration, doesn't it? And its target was President Trump. And that's why we are absolutely 100% behind President Trump. because we see the deception, this whole thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's like a, this selfish deceiver from the beginning. You know that when they were getting rid of the Speaker of the House, and all that body language going on there, that she was a deceiver, that she was up to no good. And, some people around me really liked her. And I was like, okay, well, she talks good talk, but she doesn't do anything. And now we know what she did. She's a betrayer. It was all an impersonation, a MAGA impersonation. That's what she did. So you have to be very careful with these people that talk a pretty talk. I mean, same thing with Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is a criminal. He's a total criminal. He walked the crime scene before it was secure, like he's some kind of king. He tampered with the evidence of the crime scene. That's what he did. And he had our information. He had our whistleblower. He has our whistleblower's information. He has all of it. But he is absolutely a snake, bringing hell in. He's a deceiver and he's selfish. You know, and they might, of course he has a gift of gab. They pick the people that have the gift of gab that can tickle people's ears, make them happy for the moment. But Ted Cruz absolutely could have rallied around us, rallied around the 500,000 children, rallied around El Paso, and demand that they have a prosecutor that's legally installed. Demand that we have a medical examiner legally installed that's qualified. Demand that we have elections in the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court. But he didn't do that, and he absolutely knows that the judges in the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court are imposters. They're fake. He knows that. So he's up to no good, just like Beto O'Rourke's up to no good, just like Veronica Escobar's up to no good. And I heard that Ted Cruz is from Canada. Is he like from Canada, like where the family of James Montoya, maybe, because I'm thinking he's from Canada with that Bonneau. So, that'll all be worked out. It'll all be worked out. But it's very important that people know that you have to be very vigilant. There's a lot of deception today. And the deceivers are not just trying to make a quick buck, they are absolutely foreign and domestic enemies of the country. They want to bring down the country. So, this is what we need to absolutely stand up against. And that's why patriotism matters a lot. So thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Super Close to the Border. I still don't wrap my head around the Abbott and Maru with the scintilla Yeah, thank you for reminding me about that. They absolutely came to an agreement. But Abbott appointed Bill Hicks, y'all. Okay? Abbott appointed Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks is the attorney for Purchase Funeral Homes. Bill Hicks was the attorney for Purchase Funeral Homes. Purchase Funeral Homes handled most of the bodies for the Walmart mass shooting. Bill Hicks was appointed primarily to prosecute the Walmart mass shooting. That's a huge botch and conflict of interest right there. Huge. So maybe Bill Hicks didn't tell Abbott. Maybe he didn't disclose this to because Bill Hicks then is part of Plenitude Crematorium, because don't forget that that Rosemary Arellano, Rivera, Caron, whatever you want, but she's a Purchase. She's a Rosemary Purchase. She's absolutely connected to Purchase Funeral Homes, where Bill Hicks was the attorney. So, um, I think I think that's a really important point. Very important point. And please share this information. It can't stay with just any one person. It has to be shared, because it's the sharing. This is a government by the people, for the people, of the people. It's the sharing that drives them to do the right thing. We cannot be tolerant of this Mormon faction cartel tied, uh, serving foreign and domestic enemies, you know, impersonating, coming into the military, coming into DPS, coming into the FBI, and on and on. And then bringing hell into our community, bringing hell into our military base, where the soldiers are just shaking. They're just shaking. It's so terrible. So, yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. Uh, God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Thank you